So our first speaker.
Thanks, Elisa. Alright, so that's a really nice jacket, right? Alright, so 5 hours is not enough for me. So I need 6 hours. Alright, so again, my name is Alan Spartanos Maluni. I'm the MVP for ASP.NET IIS. And I also come from ThoughtWorks. ThoughtWorks is one of the certified partners for learning solutions of Microsoft. And 90% of our training is basically Microsoft official learning courses. Okay, and we have offices not only in Makati but also in Cebu. So I'm going to talk about a number of capabilities of SharePoint 2010, and then how to develop your SharePoint sites. So although we have a number of capabilities in SharePoint, I'm not going to deal with a number of them because we have also other speakers who are going to cover some of them. Alright, so I'm going to focus on working with SharePoint Designer 2010 to edit your SharePoint sites. And also I'm going to talk about using Visual Studio 2010 in order for you to build a SharePoint web parts that you could deploy to your SharePoint portal. Alright, so before I start, let me ask if how many of us here is developers, web developers, PHP developers, ASP.NET. Alright, so nahiya kayo na lang. Ganun lang ASP.NET. Anyway. So later on, I'm going to show you how easy it is for you to jumpstart from being an ASP.NET developer to become a SharePoint developer. Alright, so there are a number of capabilities of SharePoint 2010, but I'm going to limit my talk on sites, community, and contents. When we talk about sites, we're talking about different types of sites that you could actually build out of the box when you start dealing or working with a SharePoint portal. Okay, and SharePoint allows us to actually come up with a website that is basically based on the purpose of the site. For example, if you want to collaborate with your co-employee, or you want to collaborate with your customers, or even come up with a public website, you can easily do that using a SharePoint sites. With SharePoint sites, you could easily share and publish information. If you have, let's say, a number of documents that you would want to share with your colleagues in your organization, you could easily do that. With SharePoint sites, you could deliver personalized experiences. You could have all of the users from your organization to have their own personal portal or personal website, which allows them to share information about them, and also allows you to look at the hierarchy in which the particular person or employee in the organization, you could see where the person is actually working under, or who are the people working under that person. All right. So I was mentioning earlier that I'm going to zero into talking about the tools that allows us to build SharePoint sites. And the good thing about SharePoint, it has a rich client. We call it SharePoint Designer 2010, and this is not similar to what we have in SharePoint in the previous version of the SharePoint Designer. This is a very rich tool, even if you don't have a programming experience. You could basically call yourself as a SharePoint developer, because you could create a list, you could create a website, you could edit an existing page or master page, so that you could come up with a specialized theme for your organization or for your website. And that can easily be done using the SharePoint Designer 2010. And not only that, you can also allow your administrator to basically provide kind of permission to a number of users for your websites or for your SharePoint sites. Alright, so I'm going to zero into demonstrating on how to create website using the SharePoint portal. Alright, so I can connect to my SharePoint portal. Alright, so let's say we are in the root of our SharePoint portal. And then I am tasked to actually create a security boundary within our SharePoint portal, which I could actually share to my, let's say, colleagues or to my to my customers. So I'm gonna be doing like site action, and then I'm gonna say I'm going to create a new website. Right? So think about yourself, being a developer, but doing in this fashion. Okay, you're gonna say we have a sales promo. Okay, sales promo. Oops. And then let's say the URL is going to be sales promo. The good thing about it is you could create a site using the portal, or you could write your C# or VB.NET code to create the site. Okay. But you could do it right away, right? So even a high school graduate can easily do that, right? So there you go. So you have a website. You could share the link to your customers probably, so that they can look at some of the information about your promotion, about your company's current marketing promotion. Well, if you would like to modify this, and if you're gonna do that in an old-fashioned way, like you have to have access to the source code, modify the source code, and then upload to this website. Why don't we just open the SharePoint Designer? Put it up. Okay. Of course, you need to have the SharePoint Designer installed to your machine. Okay, and then it will automatically connect to the SharePoint. And basically, you have all of that stuff available for you to modify your SharePoint website. Not only the website, basically the SharePoint Designer can be used not only by the developer, but also by the power user or administrators of your portal. Right? So we could go to the site pages there, and then let's say you want to modify your home page. Let's say edit this file. Right? It's going to to pull up all of the necessary files from the portal, and then allows you to edit it. Okay. Welcome to our sales. So welcome to our sales portal. Oops. Alright, and then you're gonna save it, like how you do it in Word or Excel. Save it, and then it will basically tell you that it's going to save it to the site. And then once it's saved, it's already there. Okay, so you could basically refresh. You could refresh that, and then basically see the edit. Okay, okay. So you don't really need to have experience in programming in order for you to build the SharePoint sites. All you need to do is to have a power user permission in order for you to do that. Alright, so palakpakan naman ninyo yung SharePoint. Ano ba naman kayo? Para kayong natutulog eh. Di ba? Ang galing-galing ng SharePoint. So I was delivering this talk workshop 3 weeks ago. And then I've been teaching Microsoft official courses for about 10 years. And I was saying that teaching SharePoint is the easiest workshop I've ever delivered. You know why? Because number one, it's easy to use SharePoint. And of course, if the tool is easy to use, and if the underlying infrastructure that provides us with all of the necessary tools to easily modify our websites, of course, it's going to be very easy to teach how to use the SharePoint and how to develop a lot of things or objects for SharePoint. Okay, so let me move on. If you're a developer like me, and you are not really, there's no challenge for you to do the development using the SharePoint Designer. So why don't we use our favorite tool like Visual Studio 2010 in order for us to have access to the SharePoint objects? So we have the SP form, the SP service, web application, SP site, and web and list. All of that can be accessed using our favorite programming language like C# and VB.NET. And although there are a number of built-in web parts for SharePoint, you can actually create your own web parts. Okay, and Visual Studio allows us to to create web parts, and then if we have the appropriate permission to the SharePoint portal, we can right away deploy, and we can see the effect to our to our SharePoint by adding, let's say, a new page and then add all of that web parts. All right. So there are basically three types of web parts that you're going to deal with, when you do programming for SharePoint. So we have the standard web part. Okay. So it's basically a class that derives from the web part base class. Okay. So you're going to be inheriting all of the built-in properties like title, width, etc. But of course, you need to add your own functionality. All right. And if you're a seasoned programmer in ASP.NET, you know that when you develop controls like custom control or a control that inherits from control class or inherits from an existing control, you typically override the create child controls, and that's basically the method that you're going to work with when you are going to build your web part, right? There you go. And there's also a web part that can also be developed, like a connected web part, wherein you're going to have one web part that is going to provide as a provider, and another web part that is going to consume the data coming from that web part. Okay, so think about having a master detail page wherein you could actually easily come up with parts of your web page and do all of that stuff within by creating connected web parts. And the standard web part is basically the old web part that we had in previous version of SharePoint, and we now have the visual web part. Okay, so if you're a ASP.NET developer, this is going to be a very good if you will, functionality that you could work on, or it basically allows us to use a file called ASCX. You know what ASCX, right? So ASCX is basically a user control in ASP.NET, correct? So because you are going to add web parts to a page, you could create an ASCX file in Visual Studio and add all of the necessary controls coming from the toolbox, drag and drop from the toolbox, you align all of this stuff from the toolbox, and then you work with the UI using your code behind, right? So you usually do that in ASP.NET, and you could now do that in SharePoint, in Visual Studio with a visual web part. So what I'm trying to say here is that there is already a design time support in when you are dealing with creating web parts in Visual Studio 2010. And that basically the web part that you are developing here using Visual Web Part is also inheriting from the web part class. Alright, so let me give you a brief demo so that I can stop talking and give the floor to other speakers. So let's say we have a page here. So this is a typical ASP.NET, right? So let's say we're going to add a part on this particular page. Let's say it's going to be a calendar. Okay, so we're going to get from the toolbox calendar, right? And then because we don't have the designer in our team, so we're gonna simply working on with our calendar using the the theming available in ASP.NET Controls. So we have that professionally looked calendar. And let's say whenever the user selects an item from the calendar, it's going to be displayed on the label. So you add a label there, okay, and then double click your calendar so that you can basically wire the selection change to a particular method called calendar underscore selection change method, right? So we're going to say label 1 that text, all right, equals to calendar 1